You're watching Bay TV, local news, talk, and information.
Good evening and welcome to Bay TV Life. I'm Claire Mack, your host for this evening. From Washington to Waycross, from Waco to West Hollywood, it seems this nation is turning its back on homelessness and welfare. Yet in the Bay Area, we are lucky. We're lucky enough to have HomeBase, the Center for Common Concerns. I'd like you to meet the founder and executive director of HomeBase, Martha, or Marty Fleetwood. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Claire.
What is HomeBase?
We're a public interest law firm that focuses on policy and legal issues related to homelessness. We give support to a wide range of constituents and clients throughout the San Francisco Bay Area, the 9-county region, by working with local government officials, working with nonprofit organizations, working with homeless people and advocacy groups around major change that they need to engage in to reduce homelessness in this region.
There are going to be some who say to you, what does law have to do with it? What does advocacy have to do with it? Why aren't you out trying to open things? Why aren't you out doing the nitty-gritty, what some people consider nitty-gritty, finding places and taking people off the street?
Right. When we started 10 years ago, there had been about 5 years worth of effort, such as you just described, by a broad range of people around the region. Church programs, nonprofit people who used to work on crash pads for hippies, for example, suddenly found whole families showing up saying, we need housing. So there was a range of agencies and service opportunities for people throughout the region, and they were showing up in places where they weren't expected and nobody knew how to handle it. So the people on the front line who do the things that you were mentioning, give shelter, give food, give clothing, create job opportunities, needed somebody to back them up, and that's what we do. We're the technical support behind their programs. What
is that technical support? What would you do to a city official or for a city official who is trying to perhaps open a shelter or...
One of the things that we did in 1987 was work very hard with people around the country to get federal legislation passed that we participated in designing that created funding streams so that there was a pot of money in Washington agencies on the front line could access to support their programs. And over the years from 87 until now, we have every couple of years revised and changed and amended and made that law better, make it work better, make it easier for people to access those dollars. So that's one kind of example where we take the needs that a broad group has in common and we do the work behind it to support their efforts. We also do very specific work, though, such as you suggested. So if we got a call from a government official saying, I'm having a problem, there's a local homeless shelter that's been in the neighborhood for 3 or 4 years and they've just had some bad experience and the neighborhood's in an uproar and they want to close it down. What am I supposed to do? They could call us in, and we have a whole project actually formed just around working on those issues that's just been launched. And we would go in and do any range of things that were found helpful by all parties. We would sort of ask everybody, out of these kinds of things we could do, set up meetings for you, mediate meetings, facilitate dialogue, provide you with information on how other people in other communities have handled this problem, help you look at that shelter and decide whether there are some issues about the number of people who are staying there, the kinds of people who are staying there, whether it's an issue about it's an inappropriate size building, or whether it's an issue about you have one shelter in your community and you need 7. How do we get the other 6 open? So there's a whole range of sort of analytical skills, which is what lawyers have, that we would bring to an issue, and then a sort of menu of solutions we would propose to the people involved, and we would, as they focused on what they wanted, then we'd help them get it.
I looked at your bio, and you've done some glamorous things in your life. Why have you ended up in this particular field?
When I moved to the Bay Area 10 years ago, one of the things that I found absolutely stunning, because I had a long absence after being educated in California to work on the East Coast, when I came back, I was really stunned by the presence of homeless people in our community. And I felt that sort of in my lifetime, which hadn't been that long at that point, And it was absolutely incredibly, and still is, shocking to me. I feel like I'm really young, and I've been very sort of aware and conscious of civic and public issues from the time I was in grade school. And to have such a problem suddenly just like manifest in my face, I take it personally. It's incredibly insulting to me that we as a nation have allowed such a terrible problem to show up in the midst of side-by-side glamorous, glitzy wealth. These incredibly beautiful downtown centers, convention centers, high-rise office buildings. There's been a parallel change in our communities at the same time homelessness has erupted. And I'm just offended, so I had to act.
I'm pleased you're offended. Who pays you if you come into a city or a region or a county to help?
We access resources from any place that we can get them. It's sort of a scrounging operation, to be very inelegant about it. A lot of support, the mainstay of our support for the last almost 10 years has been Bay Area foundations. The Hewlett Foundation, the San Francisco Foundation, the Marin Community Foundation, the Irvine Foundation. There's a list that could go on and on. But foundations in the 9 counties of the Bay Area have been very supportive and way out ahead of their peers around the country in supporting solutions to reduce homelessness.
Do you have to work harder at finding the solutions to help cities or to get the funding?
Finding the solutions to help cities is where my passion is. Raising money is the necessary task to get there.
I mean, that seems to be, I mean, who helps you?
I have an incredibly wonderful staff of people and volunteers, essentially volunteers and students who come through. And the nature of our program is to be very resource intense. So we have a small staff of lawyers. There's 5 of us at the moment, actually, the largest we've ever had. And probably over the next 12 months, there will be 50 law students and seniors in college and graduate students in public policy who come in and work with us to achieve our goals. So it's a very concentrated and actually a training program for people interested in these issues.
Excellent. On that, we'll take a small break.
Bay Area businesses, Bay TV is your TV. Get the high impact of television advertising at low rates with Bay TV's community zone rates. For example, is your business in the East Bay? Then spend only what you need to reach the customers in your area. Audrey of Levy's Bagel says Bay TV is very informative, and I think viewers are tuning in for that reason. Our viewers can be your customers too. Call today. Ask about our new community zone rates. Bay TV is your TV for advertising that makes sense.
Look closely. Can you tell the difference between these 2 contact lenses? They're the same prescription, the same brand name, but this lens cost 50% less and was delivered by Federal Express right to my front door. That's the Lens Express difference. Great savings and great service. Hi, I'm Linda Carter. I wear contact lenses, and I wouldn't trust these eyes to just anyone. I call Lens Express and get my replacement contacts delivered to me the very next day. It's terrific.
Call for this free Lens Express catalog. It's full of savings on contact lenses. All the top brands like AccuView, Ciba, Bausch & Lomb, Wesley Jessen. And because they're sent directly to you, you'll save up to 50% off the retail price.
I trust these baby blues to Lens Express. Look closely, and you'll see one very satisfied customer.
Now you can replace your contacts as often as your doctor recommends and save. Call for a free Lens Express catalog.
You know that used sports equipment you got laying around? It's actually a coupon good for reducing your price at Play It Again Sports, because you can trade in used sports equipment to get the best possible price on used and new gear. Like new Dunlop golf products designed to equip you for the future. New aerobic rider exercise machines from Health Rider. And new Rawlings ball gloves that truly are the finest in the field.
Come to Play It Again Sports and trade in your used sports equipment.
Welcome back. I'm your host for the evening on Bay TV Life. My name is Claire Mack, and our guest is Marty Fleetwood. She is director and founder of HomeBase, and I thank you for joining us. I want to know about the Regional Innovative Homeless Initiative.
Yes, the Regional Innovative Homeless Initiative, phrase that should be deleted from everybody's vocabulary.
It's a lot. What does it mean?
There's a piece of legislation in Washington that allows the Secretary of HUD, Housing and Urban Development, to make discretionary grants to communities around the country to do something really of a major impact to reduce homelessness. And that's what this is about. There was an award made to the Bay Area as a region 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago, and today was the first meeting of the allocations committee. It's 27 members from around the region, from all the different governments and localities, who are going to decide who in this region is best capable of carrying out 4 or 5, maybe 6 really major landmark systems-changing strategies to reduce homelessness. Really big impact. This isn't money to build a housing unit or create another shelter. It's money to look at what is it that's causing homelessness and what can you do about it right now with some big bucks.
Yes, I recall being at one of those meetings when it first started.
Yes.
What's being done? Is there anything really innovative coming up?
There are people who've been meeting in the whole time period that the money has been set aside for us, designing really major changes. There's an employment project that's been meeting that really focuses on how to create job opportunities for homeless people, looking at the whole range of opportunity that is possible. For example, it would be possible to take people who are now receiving general assistance payments, county-funded welfare money, and turn that into a wage related to a job provided by local government as a training opportunity or provided by a nonprofit agency out in the community that's providing daycare. So that's the sort of example that people are working on. They're looking at how do you look at the entire system of opportunity and make it available for homeless people. It isn't money to set up a special job program for homeless people. It's to open existing opportunity and allow people to access those jobs.
The only thing that worries me, Marty, and perhaps you can help me with this, is there's so much downsizing. People who needed daycare are now out of jobs.
Right.
So are we going to put people into jobs that aren't going to be jobs in a year?
We're certainly working not to do that. We've had really expert assistance at where the job growth is projected in this region for the next 20, 25 years. So we're looking at targeting jobs and for jobs that are going to involve training to make sure that the people who would end up being the employer are involved in the training program. So the dead end that people have experienced from former large-scale government job training programs is being circumvented. We're incorporating those lessons into this planning process. But employment is just one of the examples. There's actually 7 project areas under this regional initiative to reduce homelessness that are the focus of people's activities that are all sort of getting ready now to compete against one another, if you will, to access the resources available. So there is a project that'll come forward related to creating a whole support service network for people who are going to need support services on an ongoing basis. Support service actually includes childcare, healthcare, transportation. So those kind of services would be part of a whole new way that people could access them using high technology, using computers and voicemail.
Now the myth is the majority of people who are homeless are single men. And when you're talking about a child care facility and hiring people, that doesn't fit. Who are the homeless?
Well, the homeless people cover the entire spectrum of sort of our demographic population in terms of race and income and prior income, current age, educational experience, experience of domestic violence, experience of prison, healthcare crisis, marital status. That whole range is covered among people who are homeless. To do program planning, to design some solutions around homelessness, what's useful is to think of homeless people as 2 separate groups. One is the group of people who were already somewhat poor. They weren't feeling like they were middle class or wealthy in their experience of life. And on top of being poor, they experience a crisis of poverty. So it's sort of, you're maintaining yourself not at a very good level, and then you have a crisis that drains your money. And that crisis can be any number of things. It can be, as I said, divorce. It could be domestic violence. It could be job loss. It could be you've maintained by living in an apartment at a certain rate, and now the landlord wants to recoup the apartment for his son coming home from college. So you have to move your family. And what it takes to get into a new unit of housing, you don't have because you've been living at the edge already. So that group of poor people are one group, and you plan programs that have short-term interventions to assist them in meeting their needs. The other group of people who are homeless are people who have chronic disabilities that cause pretty much ongoing, lifelong residential instability, all right? So residential instability means you have housing for a period of time and you lose it, then you're homeless. You get back into housing and then you lose that and then you're homeless. So this sort of in again, out again problem takes a much different intervention. It takes longer term support. It takes support that is resource rich, which includes permanent housing at a level they can afford. It may include permanent support service intervention, a counselor or social worker you can talk with. It may include mental health work or substance abuse interventions. There's a lot to that one.
There's something Ben & Jerry's is doing. Can you tell me about that?
There has been amazing corporate support for solutions around homelessness over the last several years, and Ben & Jerry's, the franchise holders for San Francisco, have participated in designing the regional initiative. They, in addition to that assistance, have helped an agency in San Francisco, the Larkin Street Youth Shelter, design an employment program for homeless youth who have gone through their shelter and who have participated in their programs. So they have started a whole new enterprise that actually is incorporated separately. That's a Ben & Jerry's Larkin Street Youth Venture. They have a outlet, you know, like a Ben & Jerry's store, you can buy ice cream. They have that, and they also go around Candlestick Park under its new name and sell ice cream to people at the sports events.
I like what you said about that sports arena, but we're going to take a short break for a moment. We're with Marty. We'll be right back.
But a hero lies in you.
96.5 KOIT. Listen while you work.
Sometimes I am frightened, but I'm ready to learn for the power of love.
Music that makes you feel good. 96.5 KOIT. Light rock, less talk.
It's pickled herring, smoked salmon, and liver paste.
Your family can be part of a cross-cultural exchange by hosting a foreign exchange student. It's a chance for the youth of today to form international friendships and help make way for a peaceful global tomorrow.
Don't forget the sign.
As a host family, you'll provide students with room and board and a warm family environment. An introduction to new customs will enrich your family life and create memories to last a lifetime. You'll begin an adventure when you open your home and your hearts to a foreign exchange student. Become part of a global community. Make friends with the world. One friendship at a time.
Guess what's for dinner? Pizza?
American Intercultural Student Exchange. Call toll-free 1-800-SIBLING.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Claire Mack. Welcome to Bay TV Life. I'm a guest host this evening, and with us is Marty Fleetwood, director and founder of HomeBase. And what's the
Center for Common Concerns.
I love it. Wonderful, wonderful organization. And I want to talk to you more in the future. What are some of the obstacles you're facing, some of the real challenges to your organization?
Our organization exists to assist communities go through this time of transition in our country, where the economy is shifting and changing and jobs are coming and going really fast, where politics are flipping and flopping and people in elected office frequently can't talk to each other or get the jobs done that they're elected to do. So that is the biggest challenge to our work, is being in an environment and a context where for every gain that we may make 3 barriers get suggested and floated that we have to help shoot down before they could ever become real. So it's a moving target.
You stepped on my feet there when you talked about elected folks, but I'll let it ride. I want to talk about NIMBYism because I have been accused of being that, and I really want you to punch it.
Well, NIMBY, for people not in the field, means not in my backyard. It's when neighbors or anyone in a community, neighbors includes businesses, corporations, factories, even an owner of vacant land, doesn't want a facility, a housing program, an agency, anything cited in that community. Don't put it here is essentially what NIMBY is about. And it is a big issue for elected officials because it's frequently, they're the target of decision making at sort of the last point of whether something happens in that community or doesn't in terms of land use planning. We've spent our entire organizational history working on what we call community acceptance concerns. That's what NIMBY's about, community accepting how the land in the community is going to be used. And we have produced 2 publications that have been found very useful that chronicle approaches that local government and nonprofit agencies can take to come to constructive agreement in community around what is appropriate land use and how do you locate and site human service facilities. There's a lot of work that's gone into different visions of what that should look like. And one of the visions is a very neighborhood intense service hub concept where you locate all the facilities that people who need support services, they need housing because they can't afford it on their own, they need counseling, they need health care, they need public income streams, AFDC programs, or they need support in employment, they need an unemployment or need the development around employment. All those sorts of things can be located in one community, easy to access, so they can go from one to the other very simply. That service hub network is a concept of sort of like creating a constellation that makes it very easy for people to get what they need. The whole other concept, total opposite, is that you scatter those facilities throughout an entire geographic region so that there is an evenness in terms of how communities have to participate in creating opportunity for everyone, not just allowing people of wealth to go and isolate themselves in wealthy neighborhoods while using all the public services, streets, roads, lights, utilities, etc., but ignoring responsibility for the entire population.
I like that second
constellation.
Right, I like that very, very much. But how do you convince neighbors, or let me take that back, how do you convince people, the politicians and the populace at large, to not always choose to put these places where lower socioeconomic people live?
Part of what it takes is separating emotion from fact. So in any community acceptance problem, when people are focused on, we don't like it, we want to put it here, we don't want you to put it here, when there's tension and there's conflict, getting people to go through a series of dialogues where they can separate out what their emotional response is from what's fact. Because what we find more often than anything else is that once people sit down calmly, talk neighbor to neighbor, talk about what they really are concerned about. What is it that really bothers you? Well, I think they're all going to be criminals. Well, I think my property values will go down. Well, I think there'll be too much traffic congestion. Those sorts of concerns can be addressed with factual information. And when people who have those concerns are given accurate factual information, they frequently are able to reach a decision. You can't convince them. They reach their own decision based on informed dialogue. But the process has to be long enough and allow for true communication between all the parties so that the emotion can leave the room.
Tell me, do you think you can work yourself out of a job?
I absolutely thought I did when we began this. Since, as I said, homelessness sort of happened in my face in my lifetime, I looked at it and said, we can stop this in 5 years. If we stop now, if we turn it around, if we do the interventions that are necessary, this can be done in 5 years. And what we've watched is more of the support systems crumble that people needed to be sustained rather than the resources come forward to stop it.
Well, with what's going on in Washington, the way homelessness is looked at, the way welfare is being looked at, do you think there's an end run, partisan politics, any future even out of Washington?
There is some future out of Washington. We've actually had some great successes in holding the line in the last 12 months and having welfare reform not yet go through with onerous restrictions, in maintaining federal funding for homeless programs, even though the proposals are to zero a lot of it out, take it out of the budget completely. So far it's still in. So we've been holding the line, and that's been really significant. But we also have begun to work with people who have a long-term picture of what's happening in our world, and to understand that as the new economic structure unfolds before us, support systems for people throughout the community will unfold simultaneously. So now we understand that that's really our job, is to create the support
Marty,
programs.
I hate to stop you. You've got a good subject here. We've got to run. We're going to pause for the news. We'll be back shortly. Thank you so much.